Welcome to WDEX, the Wired Differently Experience. Here we are again. My name is Todd Saylor, and I'm the author. I am the inventor and the attitude of the book Wired Differently. And my job is to encourage you. My job is to motivate you. My job is to love you. The show's job is to separate us from being average. The show's job is to keep us from being average. Our job isn't your job, but your job is to be, do, and think differently. So come on, let's do this thing called life together, wired differently. Let's do it WDEX style. Now, today I work at these messages, and I really feel empowered to give these messages, and I feel especially empowered today because I'm going to share some things with you about early on in life. The title of today's message is The Power of the Unseen. Master these four invisible truths. My first business mentor once said. So I give you three kind of titles, but clearly the title is The Power of the Unseen. And I just want to make it clear to everybody that it's important to me that if you haven't figured it out by now, that I touch three leadership roles in these messages. One is leadership and entrepreneurship. Two is leadership and personal development. And three, leadership is in Christianity and Christ followers. And I really feel it's incumbent on me to not give way in either of those. I mean, those are the three things I feel that I've been called to lead in. And so I wanted to go back and I wanted to talk to you about the power of the unseen. Because the power of the unseen really, touches all three of these points. But I want to begin with the story of my first real career boom. In 1994, I'd lost everything. I'd moved back to my hometown in Angola, Indiana, and took over the family business under some difficult circumstances. And I was digging out of a really big hole. And we did that. My wife and I, we had two babies, and we lived in a single wide trailer, and we started all over. And as we were rebuilding our life, we began to do certain things, and we had to become certain people. And I needed a job, and a man called me one day and said, I want to interview you, come in and see me. And I went to see him that day. It was a sales job, and I had some success in sales. And he said, I hear you're decent at sales. He says, tell me about you. What about you special? And I said, well, I don't know, sir. I think the thing I could tell you right now is that I am a Christian. And the reason I bring this up is because he looked right at me with these black eyes, and he said, that's good. I heard Christians make a lot of money. And now when I had that indication, it didn't feel like it was anything for me to not become friendly over, but it just didn't set well. But long story short, I continued the interview and I was hired. And I grew with that company, became a salesman of PEO. We're just going to call it payroll. We did leased employees and we did things and started off a little slow. But as I progressed through the business model, it got a little better and I became more successful. And as we grew and started to make money in the first year, I was approaching $100,000. And my goodness, I can remember in 1995 thinking if I could ever make $100,000, I could pay some bills off and I could have a life and do certain things. It was just almost out of my realm of believability that I could make $100,000 after all of my failures, all my non-starts, my difficult things. And here's where it comes into the unseen versus the seen. And my mentor once said, and as we were ending the day one day, he actually was dropping me off at my single wide trailer, and he was kind of chuckling about my lifestyle and where I was heading with things. And I said to him, sir, where does all this go? I can see things that may happen. They're not there yet, but I can see things that are happening. And he said, don't ever focus on those. I want you to think about this one thing. Seeing is believing. And our only role is to separate ourselves from abject poverty as far as humanly possible. Yes, sir. Man, you make millions. I'm on the verge of maybe making 100,000. And you should know best, right? That day ended, and I went in and did the evening with my family and worked up for the next day. And as the next several years progressed, 3 years, 4 years, I had literally helped myself experience a massive growth of my actual unseen, not knowing it then. And I asked him one more time after the 4 years into this where I was making more than, the only reason I tell you these numbers is that makes it powerful, believable, tangible. I was making north of $600,000 a year. And beyond my wildest belief, God had blessed me through this process. And I was with the man one more time. And this time we were in my car and we were doing some things together. And he was certainly the same guy. And I said, sir, where does this go? I don't know that I can keep up. We broke every record possible. Wall Street's involved and they're calling me and this world's kind of upside down. And I don't know where I want to build other people. I want to do more things. I want to build a company. I want to build. He says, listen to me. Did you not hear me 4 years ago? Yes, sir. Our job is to be as far away from abject poverty as humanly possible. Seeing is believing. Count the riches. I got to go. I'll see you tomorrow. Now, I belabor this story because it's true. I belabor this story because I believe it and I hear it every day as I move through my life right now. And this isn't about me being successful. This is about me making you successful. This is about me parlaying my understanding of what I have been taught. Let me tell you something about mentors. Maybe some of you call me your mentor. I've been called that before. And guess what? Mentors aren't always of your picking. This mentor, matter of fact, most mentors pick you. Most mentors reside in you. They happen because they've parlayed or they have laid their success upon you without you knowing. They use you. They try to make you like them because they can benefit from you. Those are not mentors. I'm heating up already. And 10 years rolls by and the company goes from a small publicly traded company to $1 billion in sales. And my organization had amassed 300 million of those sales. We were 1/3 of this publicly traded company, and Wall Street was calling again, and they were upset because now my piece of the business was 1/3 of the entire company, and I was a 1099. I owned my own book of business, and they weren't having any of that. And I went back to my mentor. I said, we need to change. We need to become different. We need to reach out. And he said, listen to me. Seeing is believing. Pile on those riches. As far from abject poverty as humanly possible, Todd. I said, sir, I can't do that. We need to become part of the organization. We need to train and build other people to be bigger, faster, stronger. We need to be able to do. There's so much out there that we can do if we're just focusing on other people. Long story short, that ends not only 25 years later. I get a phone call from my mentor, my first business mentor. This is not my father. This is not my football coach. This is where I learned business. And when I separated from that business model, the end of my entrepreneur career started and the beginning was awoke. Because the seen was not as important as the unseen. I started to see the unseen on my own accord. I left the mentor. The mentor calls me 25 years later. I've left the company. Things have passed many, many years and families and children have gone by. And I get a phone call 25 years later and I says, hello, sir, is this you? And he says, yes, it is. I want to talk to you about starting a new company. I've seen what you've done. You've amassed many, many riches, and I want to be a part of it. And I just need to borrow $10 million, and I'm going to make you the president of my new company. I said, sir, I haven't seen you in 25 years, and I just don't think that's appropriate. And this is over the phone. I certainly want you proud of me, but I know you have the money. But sir, the money is not the objective here. We've had this conversation some 25 years ago. You see, sir, seeing is not believing. I want to come see you. He rolls up on my office in Indianola, Indiana, not even 18 months ago, walks out of his car, and I can see him through the window, and there he is, disheveled. The car has no bumpers, has dents on every side of it. It was soiled on the inside and out with animals. And as he walked into my office, he was disheveled. He was dressed inappropriately. He had very few teeth. It was the most discouraging thing I think I've seen in so many years. And I thought to myself, if I ever wanted to understand what abject poverty truly looked like, the very fear of his scene unveiled itself to me in an astonishing way. You see, because this is where the story ends and the teaching begins, because I have got 4 unseens that you need to master, 4 invisible truths that you need to master. And I want to talk to you about that because I do love this man. I do love this man. But he's still teaching me. You see, he's still in me. These remnants of this piece that wasn't profitable to me is still in me. And in so many ways, I thank him. In so many ways, I'm frustrated with him. And I just pray to God that he can see the unseen before it's too late. So let's talk about the first unseen. The first unseen I want to talk to you about is called transactional versus revenue. So let's turn it up here a little bit. Transactional revenue versus residual revenue. So this is the entrepreneurial mindset of me. This is one of the things I've learned through life is that there's really only 2 ways to make money. Right? There's the seen and the unseen. The seen is transactional revenue. Seen is this immediate revenue. You sell a car, you get a paycheck. You sell a boat, you get a paycheck. You make a boat, you sell a boat, you get a paycheck. Build an RV, that's a transactional sale. And I'm heating up here a little bit because I'm getting excited because I do think that this is common knowledge, but I also think that people don't think about these things. And I want you to understand as a budding entrepreneur, a growing entrepreneur, or even a seasoned entrepreneur, I want your mind set on residual revenue basis style versus transactional revenue basis stuff, because transactional is one and done, baby. It's the seen, it's the riches, it's one and done. We can't build any legacy on transactional sales. But residual sales, on the other hand, are forever. They're in theory forever. They're the unseen. There's no seen ending to it. You following me? Come on, this is good. So the seen is transactional and the unseen is the residual trail. So I think about Spotify. I think about Disney. I think about Netflix. I think about anything online anymore. I think about any gym you ever join. There's no real fees associated with these types of business models anymore. They're what are called residual trails. You pay something every month. They don't want your money up front. Payroll companies. That's what I do. One of my companies, a payroll company. We don't do a lot of money up front. We just want you to pay as you go and indefinitely. This is an unseen revenue. You see the parallel between seen and unseen? You see, residual revenue results from a process of business circumstances are systemized to take action automatically. The unseen. The unseen. I see the viewers growing and I appreciate it. I want you to understand real quick here. I don't answer what you're saying because I want to get through this and I want to make sure everyone gets through this in 30 minutes. So here we go. So residual is a seen. Transactional is the seen and residual income or revenue is the unseen. And I want that in your mind. So when you're building a business, you don't want to be a one and done. It's hard to make a living if you're just making sheds and you're selling them one at a time. You want to build a system that can sell them automatically without you doing it all the time. Other people and influences are moving on a cord of your circumstances automatically triggered, creating a residual unseen amount of income. Lesson number 1 of the 4 invisible truths. Residual is unseen. Transactional is seen. Transactional is seen income. Residual is unseen income. The power of the unseens. I want you to master the power of transactional unseen, the residual component of revenue. Now, you can turn a transactional sale into a residual sale by building a mechanism or a car dealership that hires people that sells them all day long, every day. Now, you as the owner are getting a residual revenue off of the circumstantial transactional sales. You follow me? But in theory, when you're building your companies, I want you on a residual mindset. Number 1, the number one invisible truth, and I want you to parallel with the seen versus the unseen. Seen is transactional and residual is unseen. So let's get down here because now we're talking about income and revenue. Number two of the invisible truths is to parallel or to understand the difference between riches and wealth. We understand now transactional versus residual. But now income is carved out into the seen, which is riches, and wealth, which is unseen. If you're an entrepreneurial person, I want you listening to my mentor's bad wisdom and listening to my wisdom. I've got you understanding the difference between residual as unseen and transactional as seen. I want you to understand probably the most important thing here, because this parlays into everything in life, the difference between riches and wealth. It took me a long time, and I know it should seem simple, but riches are the seen. Riches are made up of the 3 P's: pride, power, and plenty. Riches are the watch. Riches are the car. Riches are the truck. Riches are the shoes and the clothing and the mansion and the boat. Riches are all these things that we stack up, this hardware, right? Riches are circumstantial. Wealth, on the other side, which is unseen, just happens due to circumstances planned and occurring independently. You see, I need you to come with me on this journey, because I want you to understand the seen is danger. The unseen is the promised land, right? Seen is riches. Rich people focus on pride, power, and plenty. We don't even need to discuss pride and power, but plenty is the deadly nail in the coffin for plenty, for riches. It clearly talks about in the Bible, it's easier to stick a damn camel through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of God. So why would God say such a crazy thing? This is why some people say the Bible is whack, but they can't get to the seen and the unseen because they're stuck on the seen. God's not talking about sticking a live camel through the eye of a little needle. God is merely pointing out the fact that the rich man that has plenty will never have to rely on God, not once, because he has everything in the world that he needs. Power, pride, and plenty, the 3 P's. Riches are bad. They are seen. Wealth is good. Wealth is the unseen. Now, we need riches. Transactions create riches. Transactions help us develop residual, which is unseen. And we need the riches because riches really are no more than tangible points of a game or a process of completion. So we're getting rewards by our riches. Riches are a finite asset as well as this distinguishable reward. I mean, riches come in hardware, it comes in gold, it comes in money, it comes in credit gifts, it comes in all kinds of things. These are the riches that spoil the rich person that can't find his way to the kingdom of health because of plenty, because riches are the seen. Now, I know I say it a lot because I want it embedded in your mind. I want this neuroplasticity of your mind focusing on seen versus unseen. You see, riches are circumstantial pieces of hardware or mediums of exchange. Riches are fun. They're the seen. I know I'm dwelling on it. You know why it's so easy for me to talk about it? Because I'm throwing around numbers that are insane. I've wallered in it. I've failed in it. I've been in it. I'm not making this up. I mean, I know that seeing is not believing. I know that the farthest away from abject poverty is no goal in life. The unseen is believing. And flirting with abject poverty is something we're doing every day, no matter who we are. It's okay. It's who we can help, right? So we got the seen versus the unseen, and we've just worked through riches and wealth. And I want you to understand that riches are circumstantial. Riches are seen, but wealth, here's the trick here. You want to be earning riches in your business models, but you want to be building wealth at the same time, because wealth is that piece that works without you. Wealth is that stock or that investment that just kind of gurgles while you're sleeping at night, right? Wealth is the home that you have, that you take care of the bushes and the shrubs. Wealth is this beautiful home that appreciates anywhere from 2 to 6% a year. Wealth is this idea, this attitudinal disorder of taking your riches and investing them into other things, other people, other ways to help and grow things. And it's only good if it's growing and creating good for others, right? So that is wealth. Wealth doesn't even need to be success in money if it's growing other people and making them healthy and doing other things. There's many, many famous people. Most of the presidents in the United States we've ever had have never been really wealthy people. Think about it. It's mankind. It's this idea of creating wealth that is so much more prolific than the 3 Ps: pride, power, and plenty of riches. Right? I know. I'm so passionate about it. I can't wait to watch the replay because I want to make sure I'm making sense. But the bottom line is that riches are seen and wealth is unseen. We are called for the unseen. We are called to, in an income revenue basing business, for residual development. And we're called for riches and wealth, to be able to create wealth versus riches, and all along doing the same. But the last thing I want to tell you of the first 3 of the 4 truths of invisibility is this one: happiness versus joy. Can you see the parallel? A seen versus unseen, seen versus unseen. And now we're down to happiness versus joy. Think about it. This is where we got to close this thing out and bring this baby home, is happiness versus joy. Happiness, let me tell you something. The word circumstantial comes up again. We know that riches are circumstantial. We know that transactional are circumstantial, right? Now we know happiness identifies and is the pure definition of circumstantial. Circumstantial couldn't be anything more other than happiness. I know happy is good, but happy is not forever. Happy is what you feel like after you eat a Reese's candy bar. Happy is after you just had a good night with your wife watching a movie, right? Happy is something that you bought a brand new car and you're driving around thinking you're pretty cool, Todd, in that BMW, until you get rid of that crap and change things around in your life. But the point of the matter is that's circumstantial. Happy is the Jeep that you have. Happy is the shoes that you have. They're all circumstantial, because happiness is a problem. Happiness is circumstantial. Joy, on the other hand, just happens. Listen to me. You can't manufacture joy, but you can manufacture happiness, because happiness is the seen. Joy is forever. Joy just happens. You can't manufacture joy. Joy is the baby daughter. You never saw that feeling coming. Joy is the grandchild. A lot of you aren't there yet, but man, you didn't see that love coming. Joy is that first love when you finally met her or him and you started to spend your life with them, and you just never really understood that feeling when you're growing up with that person. Joy just happens. It's not circumstantial. Joy comes from the investments of circumstances of happiness and all the things, whether it's transactional or riches or all these things. You can see where joy is completely the unseen and parallels itself with wealth and residual. 3 of the unseens are the most remarkable things that you need to focus your life on. And I know I'm beating this like a big old drum, but I want you to understand that the 4 unseens, the 4 invisible truths that I'm sharing with you today are very, very important. And the last thing I want to close with, I want to talk to you more seriously about number 4. I want to talk to you about the seen versus the unseen. We learned in the story that my mentor was focused on riches and distance from abject poverty, and seeing was believing. But if he would have only focused on maybe helping others and building something for wealth, building something through joy, and focusing on the unseen, wow, what could have a man like that done? Amazing. Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 4:18 basically says we need to address the seen versus the unseen. You see, the seen versus the unseen is calling it out. We defined it in transactional versus residual. We defined it in riches, right? In wealth. And we defined it with happiness and joy. We saw the seen and the unseen play its whole self out. We see and we understand that the unseen is where we should be going with our lives, leadership, and our families and our businesses. But God just lays it right out there and he says, listen to this. So I'm really not that smart. I'm just like way late to the game, and I don't want you to be as late as I am to the game. I want you to understand. So we fix our eyes not on the seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. 2 Corinthians 4:18. You see, God, he's laid it all out there for us. He's given us this beautiful business path to understand the unseen because it's his eternal path. He wants us to have residual sales because God's love is residual. It never stops coming. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. And we don't have to do anything for it. We don't have to, it just comes. It's like Disney subscription every month. It just keeps coming. God, thank you for residual. God, thank you for the unseen of wealth because God has stored riches in wealth for us. Wealth, God's love continues to compound like wealth in your home or your stock. He's invested into us. It's an amazing concept of wealth, of the unseen, and residual of God's love of the unseen. And then we have joy. God's joy is so eminent for us. God's joy, he gives us joy. Happiness is circumstantial, but joy is forever. Joy is from circumstances not known or unseen. We just happen to us of our investments and they come to us. It's literally, I have it wrote down, or joy is just in you and happens as a result of your goodness and intentions of your process of circumstances. Your true being results in your true trajectory. I want you to understand these things, and I want you to understand that God laid all this out for us, and we hit all three of them today. We hit the entrepreneurial side, we hit the leadership side of being self-development in your family, and we hit the spiritual side, and I'm just grateful for that. And I want you guys to follow me on my podcast, Wired Differently Experience, WDEX. I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to keep bringing you these messages because why did I go through all this? I'm not going to share it. So let's do this thing called life, the Wired Differently way. God bless you all, and I appreciate you for listening, and I'm looking forward to talking to you next week. So let's do this thing called life, Wired Differently.